Cloning. How much do you know? Ethics, morals, scientific breakthroughs, all in question due to cloning. Do we react too harshly? Or not harsh enough? Cloning would have a negative influence on relationships between nations and people. Some say cloning is a good thing. They bring up topics like it can solve world hunger, it can help us save third world countries that are lacking nutrition, but all this could be true. But if it is, couldn't it just lead to more problems? Food from cloned animals is an experimental thing. And it's not labeled on markets either, so you could be eating experimental food even though it is FDA approved. No further tests have been done on it. So if we do feed this to people and something ends up happening, it could cause a major catastrophe. And that's no bueno. No bueno. Ethics is one of the many things challenged by cloning. Like creating life that has less than 3% chance to live. I mean, literally, what's the point? Also using cloned animals for experiments. Clones should be able to live happily too, you know? Then you have the realization that science is playing God. And along with the ethics, you have the problem with the process. Stem cells, which is used to help build the clone, are closely related to cancer cells. Cloning is expensive. I mean, you pay so much just to make something that has a very slim chance of even staying alive. Along with all of that, there is a ton of defects that come along with cloning, like large offspring syndrome, or LOS, where the organs of the offspring and the clone have grown too fast inside the mother's womb, killing the offspring and the mother at the same time.
Imagine a world where a woman could bring back her deceased husband by giving birth to him. Or a man could bring back his mother and raise her as his daughter.
If we have a living cell of a dead person, certainly we could in theory clone that individual. We published a paper about a year or two ago where we showed we can actually now create human embryos that are genetically identical to a normal embryo. The only way you would really know whether you could clone a human being is to actually implant that embryo into the uterus of a surrogate mother. Of course, we cannot implant those. That would be considered unethical, so it's unclear whether or not they would give rise to a human being.
Society has vehemently rejected reproductive human cloning. In this climate, it is extremely difficult for geneticists to obtain funding for their research. There is also a shortage of material.
So one of the problems with human cloning is the supply of eggs. So with a mouse or a cow, we can get literally hundreds, if not thousands of eggs. We can go to the slaughterhouse, for instance, and get them for $1 each and get thousands of these cow eggs. With the humans, it took us over a year just to get 5 eggs.
Even if you had the eggs, it could take hundreds of pregnancies to perfect human cloning, a process that could result in scores of babies with horrific genetic damage.
It'd be very much like if you wanted to clone your child, it'd be like sending them up in a rocket with a 50-50 chance it would blow up.
In most of the world, cloning humans is not illegal. One day, a rogue scientist will pull it off. But cloning a person is not the same as duplicating a person.
A lot of people, who have their pets, they want to often clone them, and they want Fluffy back. And what I tell them is, you're not going to get Fluffy back. As a matter of fact, we actually cloned entire herds of cows from a single cell, from the same animal, and they develop a whole hierarchy, just like we do in humans. So you have timid cows and aggressive cows, and they're all clones. So they develop their own behavioral patterns. So the environment has a very profound impact on your development.
Let's say we decide to take DNA from Einstein's hair and grow some new Einsteins. Those clones would not be the man who wrote E equals MC squared. Each would have a unique personality shaped by his environment. Clones are like identical twins, born years apart. They may be similar, but they will not be the same. Perhaps the key to life after death is not to grow an entirely new body, but to resurrect the one you have.
My name's Terry Cronin.
And how old are you?
I'm 43.
How long have you lived in St. Joe?
Off and on my whole life.
Where were you born?
El Paso, Texas.
All right.
1970.
Do you remember when you first heard about cloning?
Had to been early to mid 80s, I think. First time it may have been in the news before then. I don't know, because I was young. I didn't really pay much attention.
How'd you feel about it back then?
I thought it was bullcrap. I didn't think they could really do it, because they hadn't had a successful finish to any of their tests at that point, I don't think.
What about now? What do you think about now as far as cloning humans or cloning animals for food? Things like that.
Well, I think it's just, it's bad business. People say, I hate to bring God into things, but people say playing God.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to disagree, because I think if we were playing God, he'd have done slaughtered us down for it. And he can still do one thing that mankind can't. He can put a soul in you. We can't put a soul in clones, and I think that's why they don't live very long.
What would you do if I told you that could have been eating the offspring of cloned animals for the past decade or so without knowing it?
Well, I would believe it, and I noticed it, and I thought it was just the packaging and the way they were marketing things. But the more meats and stuff I bought as I got older and actually started shopping for myself, I seen that they all become uniform. All the cuts are perfect, and the meat's nice and round, and when I was a kid, it looked almost like a car had hit it. Nothing was perfect or symmetrical. Nowadays, all our food is perfect and symmetrical, the meat-wise. So I would have to say I started noticing that in my early 20s,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was weird, and I didn't really like it, especially with all the antibodies and steroids and things they put in the food. And then you're going to go cloning things, which I don't even know if they have immune systems. What do they? I'm not.
They have immune systems, but due to the process that cloning is, it's very deficient. They don't work properly. There's a bunch of other defects.
Probably
too.
Another reason to their early demise.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think people should be doing it. And I think, again, if we're cloning food, we shouldn't be doing that either.
The FDA says actually that there's nothing wrong with eating cloned animals. It causes no health issues for humans, and it's actually better because we can stop world hunger that way.
Okay, well then feed those folks the cloned animals and let me have the stuff we grow.
Okay. Another thing we can do with cloning technology is something called therapeutic cloning, which is taking human stem cells which are pretty much undiversified cells. Like, they don't have any specific jobs yet.
Right.
So we can take those and grow organs and things that people are going to need out of those.
Right. You can clone noses and ears and things of that nature. Now that, I'm totally agreeing with that. You know, I mean, some poor little kid gets his ear ripped off by a pit bull. If you can grow him another ear, by God, grow him another ear. But don't try to make him a baby brother out of it.
No.
You know, I just don't believe that's correct. It's just not the way it's done.
Even if it requires the destruction of human embryos?
You know, what requires the destruction?
Well, the cloning to get this, or not
Oh.
cloning, but to get the stem cells and everything you need
Right.
human embryos and
Well,
aborted
see, there we're
fetuses.
getting into a whole other topic, which is pro-choice, and I am pro-choice. I don't believe really anybody has the say-so to tell somebody else what they can or can't do with their body. And as far as the embryos go, for me, being a father, talking to my daughter about this, they're not people until they start forming hands and feet and faces, to me. You know what I'm saying? So, there's how that goes.
And scientists, this is kind of off topic, but I'm just wondering, scientists have made Cats that- cats that can glow in the dark. They
Oh, yeah, I've
cloned a
seen
bunch of cats and genetically
Fish,
altered
too.
things.
They did fish, too.
What do you think about that?
I think people start looking for their lost cats at night. You know, I don't see the purpose in a glowing animal other than maybe to keep household pets from being run over by cars. But you know what I think it really is they're testing it on cats and fish. What they're going to do is start marking people like convicts in prison. They'll just shoot them with this crap and say it lasts 5 years in their system. You know what I'm saying? Once they shoot you with it, you'll glow for 5 years at night.
Well, it's not at night. It's actually under a black light.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. They'll be flying in a helicopter with blacklight vision, and you'll just stand out if you escape or what have you. Or if you're a free man and they just want to find you. You know, and they is they. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
Where do you think we're heading in the future with all this? Is it a good path or?
No, I think it's a very dark path. I think we're getting too smart for our own damn good. That's what I think. And I think just like with day-to-day life, there's some things are just better left unsaid. And, you know, my granny used to tell me, just because you can don't mean you should.
It's very well put.
You know. So, is that about it?
One more thing. Another purpose that people have thought of for cloning would be to have the perfect child, to pick all the perfect traits and perfect the human race.
You know, the way I look at that is when you have a baby, you've already had the perfect child. I don't care if it's born looking like Timmy off of South Park. It's a perfect child because God sent it here. You know? And that's the way I feel about that. They're cloning to get a pure perfect race. That's very dangerous. That's very, very dangerous. Cloning for food, I think you're setting us up for failure as a human race because you're going to make our immune system's weak from eating weak-ass immune system animals, you know. And that's bad. Cloning, other than for body parts for people that severely are disfigured or injured, is wrong. That's the only way I'd agree to even, if I knew how to do it, that's the only way I'd even agree to give somebody my cloning method is to make, if it was going for ears, noses, body parts, things of that nature, skin, what have you. Is that good for you?
Do you have any final thoughts or anything?
No?
No?
I don't think so.
Alright, well then thank you for your time.
Don't be cloning.
Nope.